to take a look at your latest probability, you've got Harris at 54.8% chance of winning the Electoral College, Trump at 44.7%. So not quite a 10-point difference between them, but the race has shifted dramatically toward the Dems' favor since the substitution. We went back and, I know that you know this, but you had predicted that Hillary had something like a 71% probability of winning in 16. She didn't win. So that's just as a caution for the audience that this doesn't mean that Harris is going to win. It's a probability based on an input of what? All the latest polls, or the polls that you trust? Like, how do you decide what goes into the mix?
We try to be as inclusive as possible, right? As long as it's a professional poll, professional scientific poll, we include it regardless of the political ideology of the pollster. If there are polls that are amateur polls, like someone doing it on a blog and they pay $300 for a SurveyMonkey survey, not those, but we are the most inclusive of the different sites because we believe in the wisdom of consensus and the wisdom of crowds. And there are years where some of the polls people demean as outliers wind up being right. And so we're kind of following a process there. And to the other thing you said, look, Harris it's basically a coin flip. 54-46 is not much removed from a coin flip. And you're right that in 2016, Trump won with longer odds. He was at 29% in our model. Now, what I would say as a poker player, gambler, sports bettor is that you look at where is your prediction relative to the market. The belief there, and if you wanted to bet on Trump, you could get odds of 6-1 on Trump. So we said it should be actually 3-1. So if you're a gambler and you looked at our forecast, you'd say, I have a good bet on Trump because when it pays off, it'll pay off more than enough to make up for the times when the favorite wins. So from my standpoint, that was what I call a plus expected value forecast, meaning you play out the election 100 times and you make money from it. But understandably, not many people before have come from this poker playing background into becoming this prominent election forecaster. So understandably, I know why kind of like the conventional media is not going to get that. And that's okay. It's a hazard of doing the job. But I do want to emphasize that the uncertainty is there for a reason. The polls can be off. They were off in both 2016 and 2020. 2020, Biden had a big enough lead in the polls that he held on, but they were off by 4 or 5 points again in states like Wisconsin.
So there, of course, at this point in the race, there are many Republicans who are starting to get very worried, right? Because Trump looked so much better 4 weeks ago than he does today. We had the New York Times Siena poll that came out yesterday showing Harris over Trump by 4 points in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, the must-win Pennsylvania. We had Cook Political Report moving 3 states in the Sun Belt from lean R to toss-up, including Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, which Trump had been looking really good in Nevada, which is not historically blue, but red, but he'd been looking really good there. So a lot of Republicans are starting to get very nervous with these polls coming in. You've got Trafalgar, which is historically, I guess, more friendly toward Republican voters. They understand them a little bit better. I think the way he polls is very interesting. He's got likely voters, at least in Pennsylvania today, Trump up 2, all within the margin of error. So how do we make sense of today's polling on this race?
That's kind of exactly what a polling average is designed for, where it includes the New York Times and it includes the Trafalgars. I don't mean to totally compare them. We have pollster ratings based on their historical accuracy, and Trafalgar has had great years and not so great years, for example. Yep. Look, there's a pretty clear consensus that Kamala Harris is ahead in most national polls right now by an average of 2 or 3 points. National polls, however, do not determine the election because the popular vote doesn't determine the election. In Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, she's ahead by a point, maybe 2 points, but that's really within the margin of error of the polls, right? If you had the election today, which would be a little bit weird, but if you had the election today and Trump won Wisconsin, that would be not surprising in the least, right? I think you'd take Harris at 50-50 odds, but it's very close. And the fact that, look, one way to look at it is that we've had 3 straight close elections with Trump. One where he came out a little bit ahead, one where he came out a little bit behind. And Harris is like a league average Democratic candidate, right? Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 2 points. I frankly think Kamala Harris is a better candidate than Hillary Clinton. So if she wins by 3 points, the popular vote, then you have a close electoral college race where I think she might be the slightest favorite. but would be very competitive.
Okay, so to those despairing on the right, it's too soon for that. To those celebrating on the left, same message.
No, look, I think both parties look, Democrats went from a terrible position. I mean, Biden was way behind, and I think if anything, our model overrated Biden's chances because he was not able to do the normal things that a candidate does. His fundraising was drying up. He had another debate to survive. So, I thought Biden's chances might have only been 10% or something, and now it's 50-50 or 54 or 55. I mean, that feels great when you're a poker player and you're down to your last few chips, and all of a sudden you're a real player in the game.
Yes.
But like Democrats are maybe getting a little bit carried away here. Kamala Harris is going to have her convention next week, and typically that produces a further boost in the polling. So I think August will remain a rough month for the GOP. But September, she will face a different type of pressure, the pressure being a perceived frontrunner potentially. That can be more difficult. I mean, being an underdog is a powerful kind of constituents or powerful meme in American politics. It's a sympathetic situation. And in some ways, it's a great story, right? I mean, she takes over this old guy and performs way better than people thought, rises in the polls, could become the first woman president. It's understandable why voters and certainly the media find this story compelling, but usually there are twists once you get after Labor Day and having this debate September 10th, which by the way is still pretty early for a debate. That's the most obvious fork in the road for a momentum swing.
Mm-hmm. Have you been able, Nate, when you've been watching the media, I mean, it's been such a whiplash, right? Of them eventually deciding Biden had to go. Okay, we're going to do our shoe leather reporting. Let's get to the bottom of this. We're suddenly interested in all of his fails and stumbles. And then as soon as she got anointed, it was like, not interested anymore. Forgot all our shoe leather problems. Like, let's let her coast and be her PR agents on the back of the plane and back of the bus and not insist on interviews, et cetera.
Yeah, look, I think the Biden story should have been covered first and foremost as a governance story. It's the hardest job in the world. How much uptime does Biden have seems like a valid question. And by the way, I think these questions can be asked of Trump too. I think candidates should be more transparent about their medical records and their mental health and things like that as well. And people should have the right to ask questions. But yeah, it's not a great look that once the horse race aspect of the story was resolved, that the story faded from the headlines so quickly. Because it's about, if there's a 3 a.m. phone call from North Korea, then do you have the best person in office to take that job? And I don't know. I mean, I the fact that Biden's been cagey about his diagnosis, if he has one, it's not been a great look, and it's a sign of how. I mean, what's weird about me is like, I'm someone who is kind of in the liberal media establishment, but also critical of it at times. And I think in election years in particular, you sometimes see behavior that's more strategic, I guess I'd say.
My gosh. I mean, that's such a sweet interpretation of it, but strategic, corrupt, if you ask me, but that's me. Are you ready to transform your nights and elevate your days? Discover the unparalleled comfort and luxury of Cozy Earth. I love Cozy Earth. I love their bamboo sheet set and their towels and their loungewear. Their sheet set's made with premium viscose from bamboo, and these sheets are incredibly soft, and they get softer with every wash. And their breathability, unmatched. They keep you cool all night, every night, which gives you a better day the next day. But that's not all. Cozy Earth's bath collection is a game changer, especially the Luxe bath sheets. These towels, crafted with a unique blend of cotton and bamboo viscose, using innovative technology, are impossibly soft and plush. Quality and durability are at the heart of Cozy Earth. And with a 10-year guarantee, Cozy Earth products are built to last. Upgrade your nights, transform your days with Cozy Earth. Just go to CozyEarth.com/Megyn and use code Megyn for up to 40% off your order. CozyEarth.com/MEGYN for up to 40% off. Mention you heard about Cozy Earth on our show, and they're going to send you a pair of free socks. How do you like them apples? Check it out. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.